Hi all. By now you would have realized that the grades for week 4 have already been posted. I can imagine that some of you may have questions about your grades, and so I want to seize the opportunity to take another look at the grading scheme and the expectations. For week 4, the assignment had to do with the article, The Production of Culture. This assignment required that you read the article and write your assignment based on the article. You will notice that it requires a response of at least 500 words. I want you to pay attention to the wording here, at least 500 words. So let's jump to the grading rubric really quickly. The grading rubric you see has 3 criterions: below proficiency, average, and above proficiency. Now, you will see the 500 words, and that gives the average. So if you've produced a paper with 500 words, you've just done the bare minimum. You've just done the least. So if you're expecting the full grade for this paper, then what you want to focus on is the column that says above proficiency. So in terms of word minimum, you go to the above proficiency column and you see that to get the full points for word minimum, you need to have 600 or more words. In the above proficiency column, when you take a look at summary, it asks you for an in-depth summary, which means then that you're not given a bare-boned summary, but your summary ought to have substances, ought to be in depth. Another criteria is examples. In order to get the grade which reflects above proficiency, you must have 2 or more examples. So if you've written a paper with less than 2 examples per issue, then you know that that's a paper that would not get the full points. And of course, this is a college level class, so spelling and grammar is always an integral part of your paper. Having said that, I want us to take a look at a paper that was submitted by a student. This paper was submitted by the student David Moon, and I want to point out that he first introduced the topic of his paper, thus letting the reader know what the content of his paper will be about. So if you remember this article in The Production of Culture, the article focuses on 6 tenets of which culture is comprised. And so David here tells us what these tenets are. In other words, he prepares us that this is what I'm going to be discussing in my paper. He goes on to his next paragraph, and his next paragraph starts off with one of the tenets of culture, which is technology. And for this paragraph, I shared with you the full paragraph as stated by David. And in this full paragraph, you will notice that his response was in depth, and he offered us 2 examples within his response. Now, when we ask for supporting examples, it could be from the text, it could be from an assigned reading, or it could be from your own experience. The bottom line is, if the grading rubric, and I go very quickly back to the grading rubric, if the grading rubric asks you for 2 or more examples of each component, then that is what is expected. Now, David's paper go on where he takes each of the components, and you saw just now he discussed technology. He gives each component its own paragraph. So reading flows, reading is easier, and the reader knows up front that he has addressed all 6 elements. It's very clear because he has 6 paragraphs with each dedicated to a component of culture. He wraps up his paper by going back and summarizing what he said before. And this is an example of a perfect paper, thus earning David a score of above proficiency, thus giving him the total score. Now, something else that I want to address as we look at the papers required for this class is the similarity index. I have been getting submissions with similarity index from 50, 60, up to 90%. So what exactly is the similarity index? The similarity index is where Turnitin takes your paper and compares it to hundreds of thousands of papers submitted in the online platform from any medium and see, okay, did I find this material anywhere else? And so it comes back to me and it says, okay, this line was taken from this document, and it gives me the author, the article, the URL. And so if you're submitting a paper with 60, 70, 90% similarity index, it tells me that that much of your paper was taken from another source. Not only was that much of your paper taken from another source, but if the paper is only 500-600 words, it means then that most of your paper was taken from another source. So I'm not hearing your voice in the paper. Now, you may say to me, well, I quoted this and I quoted that. If you're going to use quotations, then you have to have citations. And even with citations / quotations, we must hear your voice in translating what it is that you have deemed important enough to cite in your paper. So if you're citing, Dr. Marcia Morrison said that the grass is green, you then need to follow that up with an explanation as to what does she mean by saying the grass is green. Say that in your own words. Okay? If you find that you have posted your assignment, the similarity index comes back as over 20%, then you always have the option, as long as it's before the deadline for the assignment, you always have the option of going back, fixing that assignment, and resubmitting it. Again, as long as it's before the deadline, you can always resubmit to just make sure that you're within that 20%. If you find for an assignment that you got a grade of 2 out of 20, check the similarity index, because it means then that you have failed in terms of the similarity index. I want us to move on to take a look at the discussion grades, because again, it has come to my attention that there's some of you that still quite don't understand how the discussion works. I provide a grading rubric for the discussion, and the grading rubric is very simple, right? So just to rehash, you're posting your first post before Sunday, before Sunday at 11:59 p.m. You post your first post, and that automatically guarantees you 5 points. That's 5 out of 20 points, guaranteed. If you post your first post on Monday, then you do not get those 5 points, and there's no chance to go back and earn those 5 points. The next thing is you are expected to post on 2 different days. One post is in response to my original question, and the second post is in response to a peer. In responding to my original question, you want your post to be substantive. If you have less than 8 sentences, you know that you haven't gotten the substance. And when I say 8 sentences, I'm being very, very, very ultra conservative. Right? You want your post to be detailed. You're including textual references. which addresses page numbers. You're including examples, supporting examples, which tells the reader that you've understood what you're talking about and you can relate to that based on the examples that you have presented to support your point. Your original response and the response to your peer cannot be on the same day. Remember, it must be on separate days. So if you post 10 times in one day, it's only counted as one post. As you respond to your peer, again on a different day, your response must be substantive. Tell your peer what it is that you agree with in what they've posted, why you agree, page numbers from the text to support you, and examples indicating the reason that you agree or disagree. And again, of course, grammar and spelling, because this is a college level class, is an integral part of your grade. Now, I want to share with you two examples of what I consider perfect post. So this post was by Notion, and Notion, you will notice here, got the full points for first submission, and she also got the full points for completely fulfilling the requirements of the original post. So her first post was on September the 20th. So immediately she got that 5 points. And if we take a look at this post, you will see, and I didn't post all of the posts, there were parts of it that were left off. But you will see that this post in and of itself has substance to it. In multiple areas, she quoted the textbook. You will see that she has examples. So this tells me that the subject was grasped. She understood. She could relate to the textbook. And she could relate by the example she provided. Now, another issue is the follow-up post, the post to your peer. Again, it cannot be on the same day as your initial response to me. Saying I agree with you is not enough. Take a look at this post by Taffy Mule. Taffy Mule tells us to whom he agrees or disagrees. He tells us why he agrees or disagrees. He provides a supporting page number, and he provides examples, right? This, another example of a perfect post. Guys, I'm hoping that this documentary, this video really helps you going forward. At this point, some of you may find that when you look in the grade book, you may not be doing well. Don't get discouraged. We still have 11 more weeks to go. So you still have time to turn things around. I'm hoping that with this video, you can immediately turn things around. Also remember that I have office hours. I'm available during my office hours. To find out what my office hours are, you can take a look at the course syllabus, and that will tell you what my office hours are. All right, guys, thank you very much, and I wish you the best. Have a wonderful day.